She paid for what she never received. He stole what he thought no one would notice. But every number leaves a trace, and it always leads to a fall. The gym membership. In the evening, the gym looked as if it had been closed to the world, but someone had forgotten to turn off the lights. Rows of treadmills stood still, lamps hummed overhead, and the air carried the sweet smell of protein bars mixed with chlorine from the showers. Behind the front desk sat Brian, a fitness manager with the face of a weary bureaucrat. He scrolled through spreadsheets on the computer screen like an accountant, not someone running a place meant to build muscles and confidence. Among the dozens of monotonous rows, his gaze lingered on one name, Mrs. Chen. Age, 72. Membership paid, but no record of attendance for the past 9 months. Each month, her card dutifully sent the money, and each month she stayed away. In the fitness industry, this was called the perfect client. Nobody trained, but the money kept flowing. Brian leaned back in his chair and smirked. On his hands, he still wore heavy lifting gloves, never taken off after demonstrating an exercise machine. He clicked the mouse while wearing them, looking ridiculous, like a mechanic trying to tie a necktie. "This isn't stealing," he muttered. "It's temporary redirection." That day, he had heard dozens of complaints. Broken bikes, leaking AC, but here, silence. Mrs. Chen never wrote letters, never called, she just paid. He glanced at a folder of documents lying nearby. The first page, stamped in red, overdue. Brian looked back at the screen. Card number, deduction dates, dry digits. It all seemed absurdly simple. For a second, he froze. Among the system lines flashed the words test_webhook Daniel. He frowned, then shrugged it off as another glitch. He inhaled deeply, made a few clicks, and created a new route for the monthly payments. The mouse clicked softly, like a mosquito. The decision was almost accidental, like brushing crumbs off a table. Outside, the gym's neon sign flickered. The letters malfunctioned, so the word open turned into pen. No one saw how that glitch rhymed with the digital shift inside, how one tiny redirection set off the story that would soon tear the whole place apart. Sometimes the loudest explosions begin with the quietest numbers. The morning was clear and cool, as if urging Mrs. Chen toward the decision she had put off for so long. Months of illness had slowed her steps, made her movements cautious, yet inside she felt a stubborn urge to return to her old rhythm. In her closet waited a gym bag, coated with a thin layer of dust. She brushed it clean with her palm, as though reclaiming a piece of her former life. Into the bag she slipped a small green checkbook case, her symbol of caution. She always tucked cash into it, so I can see my money. The walk to the gym felt longer than before. Each step reminded her of weeks lost to weakness, but stubbornness won. Stepping inside, she inhaled the smell of rubber mats and cleaning fluid. The gym seemed unchanged. The hum of AC, neon lights, mirrors where people studied themselves with serious intensity. Everything felt familiar until she reached the desk. Ahead of her, a man argued with the receptionist. He demanded a 1-cent discount on a bottle of water, his voice indignant as though it were an inheritance dispute. Brian repeated patiently, "Prices are fixed by policy." The scene was absurd, a tiny farce in a large world. Finally, the man stormed off, tossing the bottle back into the fridge. Brian noticed Mrs. Chen and forced a smile. There was no joy at the return of an old client, only tension. "Good morning, Mrs. Chen, but I'm afraid we have a problem. Your card shows your membership expired." She frowned. She knew her son had set up automatic payments. The money had been going out without fail. "I'm not harsh. I'm careful," she said firmly, pulling out her green case. "It's all paid." Brian spread his hands. "Must be a glitch. System sync, nightly replication, happens sometimes." He spoke casually, like about changing a light bulb, but Mrs. Chin caught the tremor in his voice, and she understood. The avalanche had only just begun. Mrs. Chen went home, irritated and unsettled. She sat at the kitchen table, carefully laying out bills and bank statements like pieces of a puzzle, with some vital parts missing. Everything looked correct. Deductions every month, amounts matched. So why had the gym claimed otherwise? She called her son. Daniel came that evening with a laptop under his arm, wearing the look of mild annoyance mixed with irony. In his 30s, a programmer, he treated numbers the way his mother once treated recipes. Everything had to add up. "Let's take a look, Mom," he said, and added his usual phrase, "If the bug is real, it reproduces." His fingers danced over the keyboard, and soon the screen filled with transaction logs. He clicked through the details, muttering wryly, "This reproduces, and this too." The money was indeed leaving her account, but some entries were bizarre. One payment read, "Yoga for Dogs." Another, "Premium Aqua Test Access." "Mom, this isn't a bank error. Someone's redirecting your payments." Mrs. Chen frowned. Daniel pressed his lips. "You know," he admitted quietly, "I once built you a billing integration so everything ran automatically. Left a little test code, forgot to remove the token. If someone found it, it was like an invitation." Scrolling further, he saw a system warning. "Auto-pay script will update routes at 1800. "There's your deadline," Daniel said. "We've got a few hours before the system locks the new transfers. After that, proving it gets harder." Mrs. Chen stared at the green case beside her. The world where she trusted the order of numbers was crumbling, and her son, with his dry irony and habit of repeating "it reproduces," was her only chance in the chaos. Now the story had a timer. Tyler couldn't believe his ears. That morning he had been carrying boxes of protein bars and wiping mirrors. That evening his boss was accusing him of theft in public. Brian's words came sharp, like a sentence. Clients at the desk turned, whispering, "So that's how it is." "It's a lie," Tyler managed, though his voice shook. He was a simple guy with his own dream, to run a channel called Reglaments Only, all about how to manage a gym honestly, by the book. He spent hours filming in the storage room, about clean mats, honest accounting, respect for clients. Now the project itself looked suspicious. He knew too much about regulations. Meanwhile, Brian, in a panic, scrambled to cover tracks. Accounting entries vanished. Invoices disappeared from drawers. He deleted logs while simultaneously taking screenshots just in case. But the screenshots auto-synced to the cloud, creating even more evidence. The more he cleaned, the deeper he tangled himself. Late at night, he staged a break-in. He grabbed a kettlebell to smash a window. It slipped, crashed onto his foot. In pain, he dropped it again, onto a fire alarm. Sirens blared, sprinklers rained down. The cardio zone became an aquarium. Clients running under showers of water, some still pedaling bikes as if it were normal. The scene looked like absurdist Zumba in hell. Tyler stared in disbelief. The net was tightening, dragging his name into the nonsense. At the desk, a pair of odd people appeared in sharp suits. They ignored the fire, arguing whether green or blue markers were better for auditing documents.
Their voices sounded like a caricature against the chaos. The web was closing, water pouring from the ceiling, evidence multiplying, trust evaporating faster than steam on hot metal. When accusations reached the limit, Tyler knew silence was no longer possible. He contacted a lawyer, and soon auditors arrived. Not dry bureaucrats, but an eccentric married couple who quarreled over every step. He insisted on Minnesota standard counts. She demanded a unified scheme. Their comic bickering became background music, but within the noise, they unearthed fresh evidence of fraud. They opened logs and stumbled on odd entries. Among dozens of redirections appeared test_webhook Daniel. Mrs. Chen pressed her lips. Daniel flushed, confessed he had once set up his mother's autopay but left the test token. "It reproduces," he whispered, like sentencing himself. He wasn't a thief, but his carelessness opened the door. The moral picture blurred beyond a simple victim-villain frame. Meanwhile, Brian felt the noose tighten. He cornered Tyler in a storage room and whispered a clumsy offer. "Listen, I'll give you a year's supply of protein bars and say 10% from this cash box. You keep quiet, all by the book." Tyler stared, stunned. His dream of an honest reglaments-only channel would die instantly. He refused, and the deal collapsed like an empty protein canister. The auditors kept bickering about markers, green or blue, which better traced the flow of numbers. Their silly quarrel unfolded under the wail of sirens. The security system triggered again, filling the gym with alarms. The irony peaked. In the middle of the inspection, a Zumba instructor chose not to stop the class. To sirens and flashing lights, dozens danced, stepping in rhythm beneath the sprinkler rain. Water streamed across mirrors, soaked documents, while auditors, unfazed, scribbled digits with disputed markers. Brian was escorted out, his hair wet, his system as ridiculous as a dance under an alarm. His fall came loud, drenched, and to the beat of Zumba. After Brian's arrest, the gym closed, wrapped in the stench of scandal. Social media buzzed. Some filmed stories in front of the rusting "Open 24/7" sign. Others debated in comments how many likes of moral damage equaled each stolen dollar. The town took no side. Some laughed at the absurdity. Some blamed clients' carelessness. Some muttered that everyone steals, just not everyone gets caught. Tyler, unexpectedly, became a public figure. His Reglaments-only channel skyrocketed. Hundreds of new subscribers, endless comments, memes spreading. Victory, it seemed. Yet, behind the monitor, the reality was different. He found no work. Employers saw him as a toxic witness, too tied to the gym's disgrace. Fame was hollow, noise without a single real door opening. Mrs. Chen switched entirely to cash. Her green case always held a neat stack of bills. She counted them 3 times, slowly, then faster, finally whispering, "Now I see my money." The habit became her prayer. Her son tried to assure her digital systems could be secured, but met only her cold gaze and a closed case. Brian, escorted in handcuffs past journalists, still looked like he was managing the gym. His hair dripped from the Zumba flood, but he smiled. Asked for a comment, he said words that turned into icy comedy. "I maintained liquidity." The phrase made headlines, the week's joke, but behind it lay the truth. Trust was destroyed. No audit, no system could restore it. The gym stood empty, a husk of its former life. Through the broad windows, one could see rows of machines covered in dust. Mirrors stained, locker rooms smelled of damp. Once music boomed here, dumbbells thudded, summer plans were made. Now, silence, broken only by the squeak of the sign. The neon flickered, open, shifting to pen and back again. The town nicknamed it the Confession Hall. But the emptiness didn't last. Months later, the doors opened again. The very same auditors took over, the odd pair who quarreled about markers. They hung a new banner, Yoga for Accountants. Below it, a poster read, "Trust, but verify." People laughed, yet came anyway. Some for yoga, some for the joke. One day, Mrs. Chen passed by. She stopped at the mailbox outside, pulled out her green case. Carefully, she arranged the bills, then drew a small envelope. Inside lay a receipt and a single penny. On the envelope, for that day. She slipped it in and walked away without looking at the building. Tyler later heard the story in rumors. Someone filmed a short video. It spread online. Comments argued symbolic gesture or pointless absurdity. But Mrs. Chen no longer read comments. By evening, the sunset stained the walls rusty red. Wind chased dry leaves along the pavement, the air heavy with ash of trust, hopes, and money. Numbers go in circles. Trust does not.